In 1996, Jerry Seinfeld filmed a stand-up special for HBO. Not because he needed the money, not because his sitcom was not doing well enough. He did it because an HBO special was the only way a comedian could prove, once and for all, that he had made it. That was the system. And for decades, nobody questioned it. Then one company did, and everything broke open. Netflix did not just change how people watch comedy. It dismantled a power structure that had controlled stand-up for 50 years. The gatekeepers lost. The comedians won. But the full story is more complicated than that. And there is one part of it that almost nobody talks about. Let us start with the old system, because you need to understand what it actually was before you can understand what replaced it. For decades, HBO held a near-total monopoly on the prestige stand-up special. Getting one was not simply about talent. You had to earn your way through a very specific ladder. Small comedy clubs first, then bigger rooms, then a late-night spot on The Tonight Show or Letterman. Then if the right people were paying attention, you might get a call. The slot was yours for one night, one recording, one chance to put something permanent into the world. The network kept most of the money. The network controlled the edit. The network decided when it aired and how it was promoted. Comedians were grateful for the opportunity because there was no alternative. HBO was not just the best option. It was the only option that mattered. That is not a complaint about HBO. They produced genuinely great work, but it meant that an enormous amount of talent never got through. If you did not fit the profile, if you were too niche, too political, too different, you were out. The door was narrow, and the people standing in front of it were not moving. Netflix changed all of that, but not immediately, and not on purpose. When Netflix first started acquiring stand-up specials around 2010, it was a catalog decision, not a creative one. Stand-up was cheap to produce, had no expiration date, and filled hours on a streaming platform that desperately needed content. It was practical. Nobody inside Netflix was thinking about disrupting the comedy industry. They were thinking about subscriber numbers. But then they noticed something. The specials performed. Not just adequately. They drove subscriptions, generated word of mouth, and kept people on the platform. A good stand-up special could function like a hit series without the production cost or the multi-year development timeline. So, Netflix went bigger. They stopped licensing and started commissioning. They began paying sums the comedy industry had never seen before. Dave Chappelle signed for $20 million per special. Jerry Seinfeld, the man who had done it the old way with HBO, signed a deal with Netflix for $100 million, covering 2 specials and a series. These were not outliers. They were signals. The message to every comedian with leverage was clear. Come here, and we will pay you what you are actually worth. That created something the old system never had, a bidding war. Amazon, HBO Max, Comedy Central, and others were suddenly competing for the same names Netflix was pursuing. For comedians who had spent years being told to be grateful for any opportunity at all, this was a fundamental shift in how the industry valued their work. If you are finding this breakdown useful, subscribe and hit the bell. Every week, we go this deep on the business and history behind the entertainment industry. If you want to understand how the money actually moves in Hollywood, this channel is where you want to be. The money mattered, but the creative control mattered more. Under the old system, a network special came with network input, notes on content, restrictions from standards and practices, and concerns from sponsors about anything that might be considered offensive or controversial. Comedians adjusted their material accordingly, sometimes significantly. In Netflix's early years of original programming, the company largely stepped back. Comedians could choose their own directors. They could design their own sets. They could perform the material they actually wanted to perform, without a room full of network executives telling them what to cut. This gave performers a new sense of freedom. The results showed. Hannah Gadsby's Nanette would almost certainly not have existed in the same form under the old system. It redefined what a stand-up special could structurally be and it sparked a conversation that ran far beyond comedy. Critics called it the most important stand-up special in a generation. Under the old model, it probably never gets made at all. It redefined expectations for the form. Ali Wong recorded her first Netflix special, Baby Cobra, while visibly pregnant, and she performed material that was explicit, personal, and completely unfiltered. It made her an international name almost overnight. John Mulaney went from a cult following among comedy fans to a mainstream star that general audiences recognized, and he did it across multiple specials that Netflix gave him the room to develop at his own pace. Hasan Minhaj built an entirely new format that blended stand-up with investigative journalism, and he reached audiences who had never watched a traditional stand-up show in their lives. None of those trajectories were guaranteed under the HBO model. Some of them would have been impossible. The global distribution made the difference too. A special on Netflix was available in 190 countries on release day. A comedian in Dublin, Johannesburg, or Seoul could record something and have it in front of millions of people within weeks. The geography of fame changed. So did the economics of touring. A successful Netflix special became the most effective advertisement a comedian could run. Sold-out arena tours followed specials the way hit singles used to create album sales. The criticism of all this is real, and it deserves to be said plainly. The volume of specials Netflix has produced is enormous. Not all of it is good. When a platform releases dozens of specials per year, some of them are going to be mediocre, and some of them are going to be forgettable. The average quality drops when the volume goes up. That is not an opinion. It is math. Emerging comedians who do not have the name recognition to command big deals are still fighting for scraps. The financial gap between Dave Chappelle and everyone else has not closed. It has widened. The bidding wars that made stars rich did very little for the comedians still working the same regional circuit they worked before Netflix existed. And Netflix, for all the freedom it offered in the early years, is still one dominant company with enormous leverage over the industry it helped reshape. The gatekeepers did not disappear. They rebranded. But here is the part that is genuinely hard to argue with. The range of voices that found a global platform through Netflix is broader than anything the old system produced. The stand-up landscape in 2025 looks nothing like it did in 2005, and most of those changes are improvements. So the question is not really whether Netflix changed stand-up comedy. It obviously did. The question is whether the industry that replaced the old one is actually better for the art form in the long run, or whether it simply traded one set of problems for another. What do you think? Did Netflix save stand-up comedy, or did it just make it louder?